Hi, my name is Hannah Brenneman, and today I will be giving an informative speech. So imagine yourself at age 40, and let's say you have a daughter, and she's about 13 years old, and she wants to go to the mall with a couple of friends, and they're all going to meet up there, let's say about like 4 o'clock. So you drop her off, and her friends haven't gotten there yet, and she's just wandering around checking out stores, and all of a sudden an 18-year-old boy who says he's a senior in high school comes up to her and starts talking to her. She's really enjoying his company and he's being really nice to her, and all of a sudden her friends come, so she leaves. For the next couple of weeks she wants to go to the mall every weekend. So you drop her off, kind of skeptical of the situation, but in the end you let her go because she needs her freedom. And a month goes by and she doesn't come home. You can't find her. She's lost. Your daughter has just been a victim of sex trafficking or modern day slavery in the United States. As a young woman that lives in the United States, this is a topic that everyone should have knowledge about. It's important for teachers and parents and grandparents to know the facts and the real problem with sex trafficking in the United States. People all across the United States, from California to Omaha to New York, have traffickers or predators that are in the cities and that are a problem. Most people in the United States think that sex trafficking happens only in other countries, like foreign countries, especially Russia, Asia, those kind of countries, but it's a heavily populated industry in the United States. At the end of this speech, all listeners should have a good idea about what sex trafficking is and the problem in which it is occurring every day. For this speech, I will be discussing targets of sex trafficking in the United States, and how the U.S. is helping the victims. So now that we have had that introduction, we're going to go ahead and talk about targets of sex trafficking in the United States. There are both foreign and American women that are trafficked in the United States every year, but we will be focusing most of our time on U.S. victims. So, according to the article, Domestic Minor Sex Trafficking in the United States by Kimberly Coltra, youths are the heaviest populated group that are victims of sex trafficking in the United States. So, usually women anywhere from 8 years old to 18 years old are usually targeted for victims, as well as children. This article also states that there are more U.S. citizens that are victims of sex trafficking than there are of foreign nationals. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, involvement in prostitution is at epidemic proportions. Among youths on the street, there are at least 75% of those involved in prostitution and are controlled by a pimp, or we call it a trafficker. Although many people in the U.S. think sex trafficking is just traffickers picking people up off the streets, that is not true. They are also on the internet, like Facebook and Twitter, and they go for people who are pretty vulnerable. Like if they see someone in a mall or arcade that is a runaway, they will automatically go to that person. This is a picture of a woman who has been bought into slavery. It's from the Studio Media. It says, "I'm not for sale," and has a barcode on her head. I think this is a great picture of someone who might be trafficked and how sad and depressing it can be in the United States. So now that we've talked about the targets in the United States, we're going to dive into the statistics that the U.S. holds for sex trafficking rates. In the United States, sex trafficking is a multi-million-dollar industry. The article, "The Strong Arm of the Law is Weak, How Trafficking Victims Protection Act Fails to Assist Effectively the Victims of Sex Trade" by Shelley George, states that California is the heaviest populated states of traffickers and sex trafficking. This is due to the border, and also it is due to different countries being able to come into the United States from California. According to Juliet Hua and Holly Negraza, The article, U.S. Trafficking Women's Human Rights in the Politics of Representation, Protection to Victims, while the Victims of Trafficking and Violence Protection Act, or TVPA, at once extends protection to victims, while at the same time it differentiates trafficking victims from illegal immigrants and sex workers. So, for example, there was this woman, Petrova, in this article that she was talking about, that she was an immigrant from Russia who was sold into the United States for sex, and she didn't think that she should testify against her trafficker because it was her job. Sex trafficking was her job. And the U.S. is trying to extend full service to those women who need it and don't understand that sex trafficking is corrupt and other words. Prosecutional remedies and tools against the exploitation of children today, established in 2003, protects children that are traveling outside the U.S. So, if a child in, let's say China, is going on vacation there and somehow is sold into slavery, sex slavery there, they are protected by the United States, and people in China will have penalties put against them when found, when the child is found. Also, there's a law called Victims of Trafficking in Persons, non-immigrant visa, that allows immigrants from foreign countries in the United States that are sex trafficking victims to stay in the U.S. as long as they help the U.S. government prosecute their trafficker. So, even though there is a heavy industry of sex trafficking in the United States, the government is doing a really good job of trying to implement laws and help prosecute those who are traffickers in the U.S. By now you should all know what sex trafficking is and how people target trafficking victims and so forth. So you should all know that 80% of people, not 80%, 75% of victims in the U.S. are from the U.S. and not foreign nationals, as well as 800,000 to 900,000 victims happen every year in the U.S. Also, the government is taking great leaps to help people with sex trafficking, as well as targets of sex trafficking are very young women. You should all know that when you're 40 and you have a child who's 13, 14, you should protect her and understand that sex trafficking does happen, and always know where she's going, because sex trafficking is happening every day, and I think it's important for everyone to know the risk and the statistics that is in the United States. Thank you.